Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this session on Lorentz half-shade polarimeter. In this video, we will be discussing what is a Lorentz half-shade polarimeter and how does it work. This Lorentz half-shade polarimeter is a topic in Unit 1 of our syllabus, that is optics. So let us start. Polarimeter is an instrument used to measure specific rotation by determining the angle through which plane polarized light has been rotated by a given sample. The angle of rotation is the angle through which the plane of polarized light is rotated on passing through a specific length of solution for a known concentration of optically active substance. As the name suggests, it is based on the phenomenon of polarization of light. Polarimetry is one of the most important quality control methods used in pharmaceutical, chemical, cosmetics, food, sugar, and beverage industry. Optically active substances are analyzed by determining their angle of rotation. The angle of rotation allows to identify and determine the quality of substances as well as their concentrations. Polarimeters are used in wide range of applications, from the determination of the purity and concentrations of the ingredients in pharmaceuticals to the sample testing of agricultural products as well as measurement of sugar content. You will have an opportunity to use this polarimeter in the laboratory component of the course because there is one experiment set on this polarimeter. With this introduction to the topic, let us move towards the topic outcomes. The topic level outcomes of this session are: at the end of this session, you will be able to recall the various elements involved in the experimental setup of the polarimeter. You will be able to describe the nature of plane polarized light. You will be able to describe the features and operations of Lorentz half-shade polarimeter. And you will be able to calculate specific rotation of a compound given the relevant experimental data. To learn this Lorentz half-shade polarimeter, one should be able to define and use in the context a few terms. So let us quickly recall these concepts. The first term that is needed is plane polarized light. So we can see in this diagram, this side we have a unpolarized light and this side we have a polarized light, and the unpolarized light is converted into polarized light with this something that is polarizer, we call it. So what is a plane polarized light? The light is said to be plane polarized if it has vibrations in a single direction perpendicular to the direction of propagation. The axis along which the electric field is oscillating is called the polarization axis. When this axis is fixed by some means, that is it always pointing in the same direction, then we call the light being plane polarized. By convention, polarization of electromagnetic waves refer to the direction of electric field. So you can see here the electric vectors are vibrating in all possible directions. When it passes through this polarizer, then only one direction light is coming out and all other light is not passing through this polarizer. The next term that is important for understanding the Lorentz half-shade polarimeter is Nicol prism. The Nicol prism looks something like this as shown in this diagram. Nicol prism is a device consisting of two pieces of optically clear calcite crystals cemented together with Canada balsam and in the shape of prism. It works with the phenomenon of double refraction. That is, when incident unpolarized light gets splitted into two refracted rays, namely ordinary ray and extraordinary ray. So here you can see this is the unpolarized light that is falling on this Nicol prism here, and it gets refracted into two rays. One is ordinary ray and the other is extraordinary ray. The ordinary ray falls at this Canada balsam layer and then it moves away in some other direction, while the extraordinary ray emerges out from the Nicol prism. I request you all to pause this video and to note down on the paper that what is happening here and what is the condition because of which the ordinary ray is not passing through the crystal and getting reflected away at the Canada balsam layer. So you might have correctly identified that a total internal reflection is occurring for the ordinary ray, and therefore it is not emerging out of the Nicol prism from this side. So it is interesting to note that the Nicol prism can work as a polarizer as well as analyzer. What do we mean by this is polarizer is a device through which only light waves oscillating in a single plane may pass, while in the role of analyzer, the Nicol prism has the component of the polarimeter which allows the light of rotation of plane polarized light to be determined. The next thing that is important for the working of Lorentz-Habschadt polarimeter is chirality. So chiral molecules are the molecules which can have a mirror image which is not superimposable on it. That means it shows a non-superimposable mirror image. These chiral molecules have the ability to rotate the plane of polarized light. It is the characteristic of chiral molecules to rotate the plane of plane polarized light. The observed rotation theta of optically active substances are opposite in direction. One will rotate the plane of polarized light in the clockwise direction and is termed as dextrorotatory. So you see, this is the plane polarized light and it is getting rotated into clockwise direction, and here it is. So these type of substances are called as dextrorotatory substances, and we have a plus sign before the angle of rotation, while the mirror image counterpart partner in a counterclockwise manner termed as levorotatory, and it will have a negative symbol in front of the angle. So the prefixes dextro and levo comes from the Latin word dexter meaning right and levus for left. The last term that we need for understanding of Lorentz-Habschadt polarimeter is optical activity. So I tried to put this animation to understand the optical activity in a better way. So what do we mean by optical activity is when a plane polarized light is allowed to pass through the substance having chiral molecules, the plane of polarization of the light emerging from the substance is not the same as that of the incident light. It has been rotated through certain angle. This phenomenon we call it as optical activity, and the substances exhibiting this property of optical activity are called as optically active substance. So in this animation you can see, though the plane is fixed in this direction of vibration and it is polarized light, but when it is coming out of this, it is getting rotated by some angle. So you can see in this portion of the animation, the direction remains same, fixed into this arrow, but it gets rotated through this angle. So with this information, let us start exploring further in Lorentz-Habschadt polarimeter. So before going into further details, it is time to reflect on what we have understood till this point in the video. So you try to answer these 7 questions and write the answers on a piece of paper, and then we will quickly check whether we got the correct answers so that we have understood the content discussed till this moment. The questions are the light waves transverse? Second question, can sound waves be polarized? Third question, is it electric vector or magnetic vector of light waves conventionally should be vibrating in one plane for light being polarized? Question number 4, if two prisms are placed coaxially, can you see the polarized light from the second one? And question 5, the Nicol prisms are placed in the cross position, will you be able to see the light? Sixth question, what do we measure by polarimeter? And the last question is, the working of Nicol prism is based on some phenomenon, optical phenomenon. What is that phenomenon? So in question 4, you please assume this, it is mentioned Nicol prism. So you might have correctly answered these questions. The answer of these questions are, light wave is a transverse wave as it exhibits polarization. Can sound waves be polarized? No, sound waves being longitudinal, they cannot be polarized. we need electric vector as a convention to be vibrating in one plane for light being polarized. The next question's answer is yes, we can see the light coming out of the analyzer if the two nickel prisms are placed coaxially. The question number 5 answer is the nickel prisms are placed in cross section, crossed position, so we will not be able to see the light. And next question, what do we measure by polarimeter? We measure specific rotation, and the working of nickel prism is based on the phenomenon of double refraction. So if we have got all the answers correct, then it is good thing that we have attended and listened to this content till this moment in a meaningful way. Now we will move towards the Lorentz half-shade polarimeter. The schematic of experimental setup of Lorentz half-shade polarimeter is shown in this diagram. The experimental arrangement shows there is a monochromatic source. So this is the monochromatic source. That means the light coming out of it is of single wavelength. Then still it is an unpolarized light, as shown by this, that it is an unpolarized light. Then we have a polarizer, and this polarizer splits the light ray into two rays. One is ordinary ray following this path and coming out, and the other one is extraordinary ray which is emerging out of the nickel prism. So we have this Canada balsam layer here in the polarizer. The unpolarized light from the source, when it falls on this nickel prism, then the nickel prism polarizes the light and it fixes the light into one direction. The plane of polarization will depend upon what is called the principal section of the polarizer. It is like a slit in the plate, and when the light is passing through it, only the vibration which takes place along this axis, they will pass through, and so the vibrations are all aligned to this slit and the light is plane polarized. Then this plane polarized light is being passed through a device which is called as half shade plate. So we have this device which is called as half shade plate. When the light comes out of this half shade plate, then it is allowed to pass through this polarimeter tube. The length of this polarimeter tube, that is from this end to this end, is a important experimental parameter that we will need. So this optically active substance in the form of solution is filled into this tube. The light that is coming out of this tube is then falls on the analyzer. This nickel prism, which works as analyzer, which can be rotated about the direction of propagation of light, and its rotation can be read on a circular scale graduated in degree with the help of vernier scale. So here we have a scale to note by what amount the analyzer is being rotated. This can be measured with the help of this scale. So a small question here, that if 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30 degrees, we have 10 lines in between, and then from 0 to 10 we have 10 lines, 10 to 20 we have 10 lines, 20 to 30 we have 10 lines, and the total number of divisions are 10 on the vernier scale. Then what is the least count of such an apparatus? So the least count of this apparatus will be equal to 1 degree is the smallest division on main scale divided by total divisions on the vernier scale is 10, so it comes out to be 0.1 degree. So the least count of such instrument will be 0.1 degree. One more concept question here, that how many nickel prisms we use and which one is allowed to rotate. So as you might have correctly identified, that we use two nickel prisms. One of them is polarizer and one of the other one is analyzer, and analyzer is allowed to rotate. So with this, now we will move towards the actual working of the Lorentz half-shade polarimeter. As you can see, this is the source of the light, and the light is falling, is moving in all is unpolarized, and it is moving in all possible direction, the electric vectors. Then this 3 is the polarizer and light is getting polarized, and when it passes through this tube having the length L, then it rotates the plane of polarization, and when the light falls on this analyzer, that is 7 number is the analyzer, and the observer is observing the light intensity. So when he wishes to see the correct position of light, then he needs to rotate the analyzer and he will be able to note the reading. So at this moment we can have one thing, that is whether there is a half shade plate present or half shade plate is not present. So if half shade plate is not present, then what the observer will observe is only the complete brightness or the extinction of light, and then only he will be able to confirm that the analyzer is in the same direction as the direction of the light that is coming out of the optically active substance tube, and how much angle is being rotated. So the situation will be something like this, that complete darkness or complete brightness will be there, and observer has to record this. So these are the two positions he will be able to see. But because it is difficult to record where the complete light is completely extinct at the complete brightness, and there may be some confusion, so we use half shade plate. This half shade plate have two semicircular plates. One is made up of glass and the other half is made up of quartz. Both the halves are cemented together. The use of half shade plate is to increase the sensitivity of the apparatus. Without half shade plate, we need to look for a complete brightness or complete darkness, maximum or minimum brightness without the reference standard. With the half shade, we are comparing two different signals from the two half circles, the semicircles. When they match, that means we have a reference where the intensity in both semicircles is same. That is the position where the angle of rotation is to be recorded. When the analyzer is slightly disturbed or not matching with the direction of polarization, one half circle becomes brighter than the other. And so if half shade plate is used, we can have more accuracy towards the taking the reading. So here you can see this is the situation without the half shade plate, and with half shade plate what do we have is there are two semicircles, and there is reference that whether the light of the this semicircle is matching with the other semicircle or not. As you can see, these are the two positions where the light is completely equally bright or equally dark. So you can see here now this semicircle is completely getting diminished intensity, and we can have a reference for the other. So this is the role of half shade plate in the working of this Lorentz half shade polarimeter. Now, the longer the path of the light through the solution of optically active molecules, the more molecules will be encountered by the light, and the light will give greater optical rotation. And the other thing is, the more the concentrated the sample, more molecules per unit volume will be present, and the more are the chances that more molecules will be encountered by the light, and greater the optical rotation. So concentrated solution will have a higher optical rotation than the dilute solution, and the length of the tube is more, that will create more possibility of light getting encountered by the chiral molecules. So if we put it into a better word, what we have is theta is proportional to path length, and theta is proportional to the concentration of the optically active substance. So we can write that theta is equal to constant into concentration into length of the tube. So this constant we have replaced by a symbol, that is S into square bracket. So S put in square bracket is the intensive property of the optically active substance. What do we mean by this is that this angle of rotation will change when the path length is changed, and this angle of rotation will change when the concentration of optically active substance is changed. But S being a constant number will not change with the length of the tube and concentration of the optically active substance. So therefore S is called as an intensive property. There is something more into this, and that is at what temperature this S is being measured and with what wavelength this S is being measured. So how do we take care of that? The specific rotation is put into this square bracket, and here you can see there is lambda put here. That means at what wavelength this S is measured, and this T is the temperature. So when we denote this specific rotation, it is to be mentioned that this S is measured for this wavelength and at this temperature, because the specific rotation measured at different temperatures may vary for some substances, and at what wavelength it is measured, that also is going to change. So therefore we need to mention these two things. And what is the formula? The formula is the angle of rotation, observed angle of rotation, that is on the circular scale, that is put here, that is theta. The length of the tube, optically active substance field in that tube, that is given, and it is called as path length, and the unit are decimeter. The concentration of the optically active substance is expressed in the units of grams per milliliter or grams per cubic centimeter. So this formula is to be used for the finding the specific rotation when the angle of rotation might be given, or if the concentrations are to be found out, we need to rewrite this formula. There is one important other term here, that is percentage optical purity. This percent optical purity can be found out by dividing the observed specific rotation by the specific rotation of the pure substance and multiplying it by 100. We will get the percent optical purity. So if you look at this formula, this problem, a 20 centimeter long tube is filled with the solution having 15 grams of optically active substance in 100 ml of water and is placed in the polarimeter. If the angle of rotation of the plane polarized light is found out to be 19.8, how much would be the specific rotation of the substance? So if you put all the terms into this formula, you will get an answer that is 6.6. But something more is there, and what is that? That we will see in the next slide. But before that, you get the answer that the answer for this problem is, correct answer is 66. And with that 66 answer, if we try to look into this table, then we see that the optically active substance this problem has considered is sucrose, because the answer we got is 66 as the answer for the specific rotation value. So you can see the specific rotation values are given as 20 is written here and D is written here. What does that mean is the readings are taken at 20 degrees Celsius and the wavelength that is used is sodium light. So this is how we need to look into this data, and this is how we need to understand the role of this optically active substance in finding the chemical which is the optically active substance involved. So for some more details into this, the unit of specific rotation is degree per decimeter into grams per cubic centimeter, but it is generally expressed only in degrees. So don't worry if you find somewhere degree written only. The complete unit is degree per decimeter into grams per cubic centimeter. And if the length of the solution, that is, we have seen in the earlier numerical that it came the answer as 6.6, while it should be 66. So what went wrong into that problem is, if the length of the solution is in centimeter, then the formula will be S is equal to 10 into theta upon L into C. So you can recall that the length was mentioned as 20 centimeter, and therefore it needs to be multiplied by 10, and you will get the answer 66. And the concentration is equal to mass of the substance M divided by volume V. So with this simplification, the formula will be modified as specific rotation is equal to 10 into theta into volume divided by length into mass.